I think we're going to try to have an outdoor opportunity at Extensions. Like, we've all been texting about it, trying to get it all figured out. But in order to get where we need to be this week and head into the 3-day weekend with, like, no new homework and stuff like that, we wanted to keep going and trying to make progress. So sorry that we are actually going to have class today. But then we're going to play Jenga. So give me like 15 minutes, and then we'll play Jenga. Yeah? We need pencils in hand ready to go, though. I know you haven't had to write that much yet today. So when we get told to subtract in a question like this, -1 minus 9, some rules, I think it was General Arthur who said some rules are meant to be broken. So subtract isn't like the only way to do this. This might be what Khan is telling me to do. But what else, like, what if I don't want to subtract? Can anyone tell me how I can think about this problem a little differently, Major? How? So say more. Like, yeah, we can think about it as addition, but... So take a moment to read what I have up here. Just take a moment to read. Hell, I should go ahead and put it away because it's just going to distract you. I can already tell. Like, away. There we go. And if those are too, like, brittle or whatever to, like, have in our backpack, that might be one of those, like, do we bring it or not? Tommy?
Remember, subtraction kind of doesn't exist.
You remember that weird video where, like, subtraction does not exist? Okay, so subtraction exists. Only because we made it up, though.
Yeah.
Same thing with division. We'll get to division not existing, like, here in a couple weeks, probably. So if we're going to say subtraction doesn't really exist, I could call, like, every string of numbers just and. I've got this, and I've got that, and I've got that. So what's my first number I have up here? -1. So on your paper, I'd like you to write down -1 minus 9, but then we're going to switch it to not subtraction. Now, we can't get rid of this because it's either telling us to subtract or it's telling us that 9 is negative. So if I read this as like I have a -1 and that's highlighted. And I also have a -9. And guys, these problems came from what most of us missed. Right? I went into Khan, I checked what we've been doing. A lot of us missed problems like this because you might think like, oh, well, like 1 and 9, the difference is 8. And you might think, so that's not what we're doing. It's not 9 minus 1. It's not 1 minus 9. It's -1 and a -9. Or if you think about it, I have lost my vertical number line. It is somewhere, and I thought I got it out. It's probably back in my closet. But if you think about it on the number line, you're at -1, and you go another -9, or you minus or go down or subtract 9 more, where do we land? Where do we end up? -10. And guys, these questions might be on the review game Jenga. So writing them down now might just give you the answers to the Jenga. Sorry, something stuck in my throat. You guys know when people like cough and they're like, hint! That's the answer!
Yeah.
You should write these down because they're in the Jenga. And if you have them on your paper already, well, you don't have to do them again.
Oh.
So try these two with a partner. Let's switch these to addition, but we can't just change it to like just plus. Because remember, this is not minus a negative. It's -7 minus 7. But how could we rewrite that as addition? Take like 30 seconds, chat with each other if you need, and then I will try to take a volunteer. Because I already have your cards put into teams. How can we do the same thing we did up above? How can we do the same thing we did up above? Something in my eye. Oh, I do want to check what's in the frame. Yeah, we should at least have this one written down, even if we don't know how to change it to addition. No, it's not. That's why we're reviewing this. We start at -7. That's not all that tough to, like, it's just the first number. But then what happens? Tommy.
But we add them.
We add, like, and it doesn't show us that here, but it's saying subtract, go down more. But that's tricky because, like, the trap door that Jimmy let us all know, he knows the right answer probably. He just wanted to tell us the mistake we might make. Jimmy, what'd you say is the mistake we might make?
7 minus -7 minus 7 would probably be 0.
Yeah, you're thinking like 7 minus 7. If you get stuck looking at this part, your brain might be like, well, 7 minus 7 is 0. That's not what we have. We have a -7 and another -7. If I borrow $7 from you today and I borrow $7 tomorrow, how much did I borrow in total?
14.
And is that positive or is that negative? It's negative. So this becomes -14. Yeah, I'm 14 in debt. I got an eyelash in my eye, guys. So sorry I'm being weird. Can I get someone not Tommy to help me with the next one? How could I redo this? Lakin.
Wait, so -4 minus.
Yeah, how do I write it as like the addition? How we've been switching to addition. I've got -4 and... Yeah, so we can say -4 and -7. And where's that take us? Yeah, because if I borrow 4 and then I borrow 7, in total I borrowed 11.
Now you're
Questions on those? I got some people choosing not to write these down. That feels a little iffy, but I can't really control you. So guys, some of you have been saying 2 negatives make a positive. And that's not really true. I mean, that kind of becomes true when we get to multiplication and division. But that's not what we're doing. And 2 negatives, guys, if you have 2 bad guys team up, 2 bad guys get together, do they magically become good guys? No. So that's not what, like, this is not true. 2 negatives make a positive. What is it that you'll remember from these 2 problems? What is it that does become addition? Jackson, do you know? What's happening here in both of these problems that we talked about the other day? We wrote some things down. We did it on the floats and anchors thing. 2 minus -2. Do you remember what alarm should be going off in our head? Yeah, because minus the negative, and guys, I've been noticing some of you are writing this on your paper wrong. If you didn't write down 2 minus -2, write that down, please. The V is connecting the minus and the negative. It has nothing to do with the numbers. It's not grabbing that 2 in the... All it's looking at is the minus and the negative. And Jackson, you said that becomes what?
2 plus 2.
It becomes plus, right? Because, as they told us in the video, if Batman's cleaning up, he's removing the bad guys. Is removing the bad guys good or bad? It's good. Removing bad guys is good. This ends up being 4. Try the next one with your partner. Try the next one. Three minus -6. Absolutely. That's the reason we're taking these notes on this paper. All right, somebody I haven't gotten to talk with yet today. Help me out here. Josh?
Yes.
We've talked for a
So when you it's 3 minus -6, and with the concept that we have now learned, that subtracting a negative is very good, and that negative turns into a positive, which means that it's 3 plus 6
And what's that?
times.
Alright, so anybody, what happens with this? 8 minus -7 turns into
8 plus 7.
8 plus positive, right? Because those turn into plus positive. So 8 plus positive 7, what's that? 15. Now wait, what about if the first number is negative? Can we not, like what's going to happen there? Elias, I can't tell if your hand is up or not. Sorry, it was not. My apologies. My cards have us split into teams, so I can't really use my cards right now. Fine, Tommy, we'll come back to you.
Please.
Yep, what's going to happen with this one here at the bottom?
Well, if you have a negative number, if you got a positive number, then it will go up. To
Now, wait, add a positive, right? I don't see any
Well,
addition.
like if you minus, like, basically. That's
Tommy's
adding
right. I'm just making him
It's
defend
adding.
himself.
1.9.
Why is it basically? I mean, it is. Why?
I don't know why.
Because subtracting a negative
Yeah.
turns into addition, right? Like you know, it's getting in your head. It's just hard to explain. So So this stays negative, guys. I see some of you making this mistake on your practice. This first number, nothing happened with this negative. So negative 1.3. Now plus. Both of these got used, right? We talked yesterday about how I got to use both of those symbols to make the addition.
You add a greater number than the negative number.
Ah, so we know this is going to end up being positive, even if we don't know exactly what it is. And actually, that problem came from this homework, where we are practicing, like, what does it turn into? Be careful, though. That first negative 1.3, it stays. Right? So which of these is actually correct? Well, this one is not correct because that 1.3 is positive. This is not correct because they switched the order. What is it? Well, all we did here, these become what?
Positive.
A plus, right? Plus a positive. This would be our correct answer. That's on your homework and that's in the review game. Questions on the minus the negative, or like negative plus negative. Look at this for a moment. Can anyone give me an approximation for what A is? Is it positive or negative, and then whereabouts is it? Lakin? Whoa, I don't want the answer. What is A, approximately? Yeah, A is like negative 1 point something. Lakin said 1.8, I like that. We know it's negative because here's our 0. Right? This would have been our negative 1. We're not down to negative 2 yet. What about B? Where is B approximately? Owen, can you help me out? Where's B approximately? I want to make sure you're not falling asleep back there.
B would be at positive 2. Wait.
Is it just at positive 2 or past it?
It's past.
So how do we approximate? It's 2. Just give me an approximation. Doesn't have to be perfect. 2. Help me out. What do you want to say? Sure, 2.7. So which expression will end up positive? Now we can go ahead and talk about the answer. Lakin, sorry, I cut you off earlier from giving the answer. What are you thinking? Yeah, so negative b, right, I'm jumping down here, negative b plus 2, well, that'd be negative 2.7 plus 2, that's still negative. But hold on, what's the opposite of A? Well, what is A?
Negative.
A's negative. What's the opposite of a negative 1.8?
Positive.
So this is the opposite of negative 1. So guys, what's the opposite of an, ooh, here's that, what we were just looking at. The opposite of a negative. You don't even have to have a number out here. What happens with minus a negative? Turns into a positive, turns into plus. So this is really positive 1.8 minus 1. What would 1.8 minus 1? Would that be positive or negative? It's positive.
0.8.
So yeah, this would actually be the right answer here. It would end up being like positive 0.8. Questions? Guys, you gotta be real careful with situations like the opposite of a variable. The opposite of, be careful, because the opposite of a negative is positive. Questions? Trying not to go too fast, but I'm trying to get to Jenga. Alright, the last thing we're talking about today. Guys, if I, trying to think of a good analogy here, but Josh is distracting me. Sorry, man, if you can stop what you're doing, I'm just too distracted right now. So, go ahead and write these two situations down. The W and the Z situation.
WD.
Give yourself a little bit of room beneath them. Like, do not stack those on top of each other. I'd put those, like, beside each other so we have space beneath them. You are welcome to use as much paper as you want in my room. I'm going to write it down also just to do exactly like what you guys are doing. W minus 15 equals negative 4. So, what did they do to W? What has been done to W?
Minus.
Jackson?
I don't know.
No? What has been done to W? Elias, help me out here. What has been done to W? No. You guys can't sit at the back table and just like disengage from class. We're going to have to switch where we're sitting if you guys are never paying attention to what's going on. What has been done to W? It's literally just look at the board and tell me what it says. If you read this, it's W.
Minus 15.
So what has been done to W? Yeah, they subtracted from it. Thank you. So, how do I get W back to just itself? Back to just what W is? How do I undo subtracting 15? How do I undo that? Like kind of like rewinding the tape, going back in time. How do I undo this? Major, what are you thinking? How do I undo the minus 15? Yeah, we want to undo this, right? Because we want to just end up with W. So Major said, well, the opposite, what we're going to call inverse operations, what's the opposite of subtracting 15? Add 15. So guys, what you need to write on your paper, and this is on your homework, I think it's tomorrow's homework actually, but it's already posted. If we're going to add 15 to wipe out right here, we can't just do it on one side because, guys, what if I like pull out the drawer candy and I only give candy to Major and Lee? Is that fair?
No.
No.
What do they do?
So in math, nothing. If I just like, so in math, to keep things fair, if I do it on one side, I gotta do it on the other side because they've told us this is equal. To keep it equal, if I'm giving candy to one of you, I should probably give candy to all of you. What's negative 15 plus 15?
30.
Negative 15 plus 15?
0.
0. So this becomes W. Careful. Negative 4 plus 15. 11. For Z, is there any alarm going off in your head when you look at this Z expression? There should be some kind of like alarm bell of like, oh, I can make this easier. Josh?
Yes. So with the thing we just learned, minusing a negative equals a positive.
So this is really 14 equals Z plus 12. Okay, so if I want to get Z back to itself, I want to get rid of that plus 12. Chance, you want to help me? How do I undo a plus 12? What's the opposite of adding 12? Yeah, subtract it! So we say, all right, get out of here, plus 12. We just subtract it, because what's 12 minus 12? 0, and Z is going to be by itself, but can I just minus 12 over here?
No.
Where else do I have to do it?
14.
The other side. I sure hope we're writing this stuff down, because it's on. Guys, by the way, we're playing Jenga tomorrow also. So tomorrow when you come in, you'll just be able to get right into your teams, and we'll be able to get right down to Jenga. So if I subtract 12 from both sides, we get Z is equal to what? 2. Yep. I just need you to be able to tell me what we need to do. You don't have to be able to tell me the final answer. Take a minute, write these down, and decide what do we need to do to get the variable by itself.
How am I going to do that?
After this slide,
Oh, man.
we could just not do Jenga at all.
I'll try to save focus so that we can play. The quicker we do this, the quicker you can play.
Careful when you're writing these down. You miss part of this. Because it's minus negative. And what happens when I minus the negative?
Oh, I know.
We get this one too? And just written down at least. A minus negative. Oh, let's see that. Jot it down. A minus negative 3.7. What happens with minus the negative over there? Anybody? Anybody? Just shout it out. Turns into addition. This is really a plus 3.75 equals 6.11. Now what would I do to get the A back to just alone by itself, just A? Elijah? Yeah, get rid of that 3.75 by doing subtraction. And we could use a calculator to help us out with that, right? I mean, you could stack the subtraction and borrow and everything. We don't have to finish this out, though. We just need to know what would we do, and then you could grab a calculator. Now with our B right here, guys, be careful. Fraction bars, minuses, negatives, they all get a little messy with each other. So you gotta be really careful when we're writing stuff like this down. Can anyone tell me what we want to do to get B back to itself. I want you to be yourself. Be by itself. Anybody, what do we want to do? We need to add. We need to do the opposite of, I thought I clicked red. That's right. We want to do the opposite of what it's showing us. It's showing subtraction. So we can say, okay, if I add 7/4, that'll wipe out. If I add 7/4, then that will get b by itself. We're going to do a lot more with equations next chapter. This is the only thing we're doing with equations this chapter. So it's all about keeping things fair. If I do it on one side, I do it on the other. If I give Jimmy candy, I'm giving everybody candy. Right? If I give Owen candy, I'm giving everybody candy. What I do on one side, I'm doing both sides. Or for candy, it's all of us, right? We won't do this final question that I had there. We can go ahead and jump into Jenga. Alright, but here's the thing. Before we get into our teams, my Jenga has some slightly different rules. So, there's too many teams. We'll do a dice roll instead of a coin toss. Hey, I'm not going to repeat these directions because it's a waste of time and I'd rather spend time playing it. Let's just listen to them the first time so we hear them. Put your pencils down. Point your eyes at the board. Put the calculators down. Point your eyes at the board. So, let's play out. Let's just say that group of guys back there is a team. Right? And I don't know. I did random cards. I'll show you in a second. Well, let's say Josh picks the question. Does that mean Owen is not solving? No. Owen is Josh's teammate. Owen should be solving at the same time to make sure everyone on the team agrees. Mrs. Fisher, any chance you would want to run those out just because I realize 8th grade might need them?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
No.
So, Owen solves the problem at the same time. So does everybody else. Because if Josh goes to give his answer, and Owen and Elias haven't talked to Josh, and Josh is like, the answer's 1/2, and Owen's like, but no! Owen had a chance to talk to Josh. Josh had a chance to talk to Owen. But once Josh tells me his answer for the team, that's it. That's the answer. So let's say Josh's answer's wrong, and Jimmy knows it. Jimmy's like, nah, dude, it's not 1/2. Jimmy raises his hand, looking for the steal opportunity. Because if they get the question wrong, it's up to steal. So if Josh had the answer right, somebody from the team comes up to the tower and gets to pull a block. If Josh had it wrong, another team gets a chance to steal not only the points for the question, but the points for the block. You might like points. Since when did Jenga have points? Well, my Jenga does because it's math. So, the right answer would have earned Josh's team 4 points. But then we all know that Jenga is easier when you go for the middle blocks. Right? It's safer. It's easier. So, why would they be worth the same? They're not. Not with my Jenga. So, if you get the answer right and go for a middle, your team will get 7 points. If you get the answer right and you go for an outside, your team will get 9 points. But if you knock the tower over, what's positive 4 minus 10? -6. So you could also get -6. Now, especially for my vertically challenged classmates, please let's not do this and have the whole tower fall on top of you. So one of the ways that we keep this a bit safer, is when you come up to this tower, you can poke around. But as soon as you start touching the tower, you only have 30 seconds. So if I come up here and I'm like poking around and I don't find a loose block, I still gotta take one. Like poking around will sometimes be useful, and you can sometimes find one that's easier. Sometimes it's not. Here's the real kicker. After you pull your block and you put it on top, you now have 10 seconds to do whatever else you want. That could be that. Now, whatever else you want does not mean take more blocks. You don't probably want to do that, because if you knock over the tower, it's still your problem. But you could set a booby trap if you think that's what you want to do. But I will warn you, most of the times in history of like my class, when kids have done that, okay, so Josh's team sets a booby trap. Major's team goes, they pull a block successfully. Tommy's team goes, pull a block successfully. Reese's team goes, pulls a block successfully. It gets back to Josh's team, and the booby trap is still there. Now the booby trap they set, they have to deal with. So just think about it. If you're going to set a trap, realize it's probably maybe going to come back to you. Questions on how we do Jenga. And then you guys keep your scores right up here. Yes.
So like as a booby trap, can I if I pull like a side piece out, can I take the middle piece and put it on move it to the side?
No. Literally said you cannot move the other, like you can't pull any other blocks. If I pulled this one, like I can't move this. And also you have to like lift, you can't really see what I'm doing. But like if I pull this guy out, to move this, you kind of would have to lift up the whole tower. You need like 3 hands. So yeah, no, like moving the other blocks in, out, whatever, that's not what you want to do. But like sometimes the tower's leaning and you might need to shift it to like push the weight back another direction. Because once you pull your block, you might be like, oh crap, but if the block's out, it's out. So like you just might need to shift the tower so it doesn't fall over. Jackson?
Can you like when you do the trap, can you put the blocks on there like this or this?
Nope, blocks have to go, those are standard Jenga rules, like blocks have to go on top, perpendicular to the row before. Also, standard Jenga rule of the top 3 rows are off limits. You can't pull from the top 3 rows.
So if you pull out a block,
Yes,
and then it starts to fall over
yes.
a little bit, and you put it back on top, and
Yeah.
it's starting to fall over.
You have 10 seconds. Then, the tower's got to stand for 30 seconds, and please don't like count. Like the clock back there is really easy for me to glance at and know when 30 seconds will be up. But guys, we move on. So like once a block or once an answer gets given and we figure out who's coming to the tower, we move on. We don't wait for the person at the tower because we want to solve as many problems as we can, get as many points as we can. So earlier, I gotta switch back to the other slides. I just randomly laid out the cards because it is faster if I have this prepped ahead of time. Here are our teams that we need to get into. So, Idris, Josh, Jimmy. You guys are all spread out. I guess you're going to have to pick a place to go. Elijah, Jackson, Clayton, and Carol, or sorry, Tommy. Your card was facing the wrong direction. My bad, bro. Elias, Liam, Owen, and Lakin. So find your teammates, get with them. You can move all your stuff there, like your Chromebook, your notebooks. Here, let's say Major. You'll be team captain because you're on top. Where do you want to sit? Right up here is a dangerous spot. So I'd either come over there, back there. Like, where are you going, Major? All right, Major's team is going here. So Reese, Josh, Jimmy, come on over here. Elijah, where do you want to sit? And you are welcome to stay there if you want. Right there, Elijah's team. You're going there. Elias, are you claiming the round table? Elias's team is claiming the round table. Get with your teammates. You're going to want paper, pencil, maybe a calculator. Jimmy, you are with Major's team. I think Major's team is over here. Sorry, Jackson, you are... Yeah, Elijah's team.
Who's team captain?
I mean, it doesn't really matter.
No, he's on the top.
Hey, guys. It switches every turn. So here's how this works. I have your cards, split into teams. We will dice roll to see who's going first. Then I just shuffle that team and pick a card, and that person is the current question master. They're the one who has to give me the answer. So let's say Elijah's the question master, and Tommy's like, Mr. Hudson, it's 2. I can't hear Tommy. I can only hear Elijah. Now Tommy should be talking to Elijah, but I can only hear Elijah trying to give me the answer. Does that make sense? All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Wait, what are we on?
Ooh, 3. So Owen's team, you will be the first team happening.
Where did you get that?
Yeah, I know.
Where'd you get that dice?
Oh, and who else is on your team?
Me. Elias, Leon,
Okay. All right, that team will be first tomorrow. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
First tomorrow.
Yeah, we don't
We're running out of time.
Who's me?
4. Tommy's team.
Who's me?
All right, so we have our order set. We know who's on what teams.
5, 6. Right?
Tomorrow, well, so Lakin's team will be first, Caroline's team will be second, Jimmy's team will be third. But guys, it's not always an advantage to go first, because then you also then go fourth, and then so tomorrow when we come in, get with your team as fast as possible. You need paper and pencil out, and we're just playing Jenga review game. That's what we're doing tomorrow. Cool?
Bye-bye.
But I think, unfortunately, we're out of time.
Where you guys going?
I'm over time by like 30 seconds. Thank you, sir.
Social studies. I'm gonna come in there and give you